We're starting a new series on the book of Ecclesiastes. I am Pastor Brenda. Really an honor to meet you in this space. Now, Ecclesiastes is found in the Bible. It's found in the Old Testament, and you may, but most likely have not read this book of the Bible. It's considered a wisdom book, and most people don't like it. I am a 40-plus year youth pastor. I talk to a lot of teens, a lot of young adults. And about a year ago, I was like, this book really speaks to what our young people, or what you are growing up in, what this culture is saying to you and how you have to live and figure it out. And then my theology circle, I meet with a group of people. We go through all this stuff together. This is not just my thinking, it's a group think. And they did not like this book of the Bible. And now that we are through it and we're ready to teach this series, they love this book of the Bible. So may I introduce to you Ecclesiastes. And may you come and visit us week after week after week and get into this amazing book and find something that will actually speak to that ache in your soul. So please hit like, hit subscribe, and join us. So we're starting here in verse 1. These are the words of the teacher, also in Hebrew known as Kohaleth. You may have heard, probably did not hear that. It's a Hebrew word. There's not even a Q-U with it. It's a Q-O. Like, that's not English. Kohaleth, King David's son who ruled in Jerusalem. This is a literary device used where the author is going to use a character called the teacher to teach us something. So the author of this book is King David's son who ruled in Jerusalem. Now we can easily assume that this is Solomon. Solomon was David's son who ruled the kingdom after David died. And we know famously that Solomon, when God said, "What would you like, my son?" He said, "Give me wisdom." And this is a wisdom book. So 1, 2, 3, it makes sense. But just so you know, we don't know this for sure. But, but I'm saying we don't know for sure. And again, teacher is a character in the book. The author is someone else, and actually does remain anonymous, even though he says he's King David's son who ruled in Jerusalem. And so we hear from this author in first verse, and then in the last closing section. It's 12 chapters. I encourage you to read it. 12 chapters, and it ends like this, 9 through 14. Keep this in mind. The teacher was considered wise, and he taught the people everything he knew. Here's the literary device. He listened carefully to many proverbs, studying and classifying them. The teacher sought to find just the right words to express truths clearly. And wait till you read these truths. The words of the wise are like cattle prods, painful but helpful. There's a metaphor we're going to talk about in the future. Their collected sayings are like a nail-studded stick with which a shepherd drives the sheep. I'm going to talk about that metaphor too. But my child, let me give you some further advice. Be careful, for writing books is endless and much study wears you out. That's the whole story. And here now is my final conclusion. Fear God and obey his commands, for this is everyone's duty. God will judge us for everything we do, including every secret thing, whether good or bad. So we only hear from this author 2 times, the very beginning, and then this part right here. And this part in particular, we're going to repeat often in this series. Fear God and obey his commands, for this is everyone's duty. God will judge us for everything we do, including every secret thing, whether good or bad. You're going to hear this a lot in this series. Now I got to start off with here is it says, fear God. That's tough to hear when we think of fear God as an, God's going to smite us. Well, I'm telling you, God does not have a smite button. This fear God is a complicated word. Actually, in English, it's just complicated. In the Hebrew, the word is yirah, Y-I-R-A-H. And it has a wider range of meaning than just what we think of fear as in, oh, I'm afraid of you. It does include an idea of trembling or awe in the presence of greatness, but it also carries the sense of reverence, honor, and even worship. Translators have typically kept fear, instead of using the word respect, which you might think that's a little bit better, because I could respect God. But respect is probably not weighty enough for this. So when it comes to respect the Lord, there's like those who can respect the Lord and then go on living anywhere they want to. That's actually disrespectful. It's a kind of respect that's got a little bit of fear in it that says, you are God, you notice me, and my life is going to change because of that. That's what fear of God means. You tracking with me a little bit? And just so you know, in the link here, we have a downloadable PDF explaining this more. It's great to use, great to know, because you'll see this fear of the Lord or fear of God quite a bit in the wisdom books and throughout the Bible. Okay, one verse done. Let's go to verse 2. Everything is meaningless, says the teacher, completely meaningless. That's how the book starts out. Verse 2, everything is meaningless is a sad quote coming out of the Bible. I mean, everything? This is the start. This is what you want us to know right away. But this is the building block of the entire book. Like fear or yira, meaningless or futility is not the perfect English translation either. The Hebrew word is Hevel. And this word means vapor, smoke. We'll also use fog as a synonym. We love metaphors in this church. Hevel is ungraspable. Smoke, fog. You just can't get your hands on it. Meaningless. You just can't get it into that controlled box that you want. Futility is another word used sometimes in translations. It's just empty. And this word Hevel is used 38 times in the book of Ecclesiastes, including here in the very beginning. And it's a metaphor to describe how temporary and fleeting life is, like a wisp of smoke. How life is an enigma or a paradox, like smoke or fog. It appears solid, but then you try to grab onto it. There's just nothing there. You worked and you worked and you worked and you worked till you got to that point, and there's just nothing there. There's beauty and goodness and joy in the world, but just when you're enjoying something and it's just so, tragedy strikes and smashes your heart. But like vapor, it all passes. Or all is gloom and doom in the world, and it is so hard to find goodness. Then you realize that everything our president says, no matter who is president, is vapor. It's just all Hevel. The teacher is giving us a perspective. So can we learn to live with this perspective coming out of wisdom? Because innately deep inside of us, we have a strong sense of justice. But life is so unpredictable, or like chasing after the wind. Everything is Hevel, Hevel, Hevel. Smoke you can't grab onto and try to figure out. Here's our first conversation question. I hope you gathered with some people to have this conversation. What do you think the author, not the teacher who's the literary device, but the author is trying to get across right away by coming out by saying that everything is Hevel, everything is meaningless? Is this despair, or is this a deeper kind of wisdom? Have that conversation. Second question already. What are some areas in life, your life or just life in general, that feels like chasing after the wind? Talk about that. I do hope you read the 12 chapters of Ecclesiastes and take this, we're going to go chunk by chunk through this book. Because here's the thing. You're meant to be depressed when you read this book. You're supposed to walk away with an understanding that an intellectualism, hedonism, materialism path ends in despair. I think that's the author's goal. He's waving both arms and saying, whoa, 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 you can't live believing an impersonal, immoral, meaningless, and purposeless universe accidentally created you. There is something more. But you know how it feels right now? Life has become meaningless. I want to share 2 quotes to you from 2 Gen Z writers who I follow. They're something. Because today's culture seems to be bouncing back and forth between panic and boredom. Everything seems out of control and scary and boring and dead. At the same time, our souls ache. So this first quote is from Claire Ashcraft. I'll include the link in the notes here also, for the whole essay is great. But when I scroll through social media, my brain is bombarded with real-time images of wars, cat videos, politics, shoe ads, medication ads, and parties I wasn't invited to, all in the space of 10 minutes. And I feel paralyzed. Meaning escapes me then. How does someone create their own meaning when they can hardly leave their bed? And why would anyone leave bed when every action one takes limits their future, which the internet convinced us is unlimited and infinite? Do you feel that? Another is from Freya, India. Again, I'll put this link in the notes. Marketing your memories also desecrates them. You hand over your hope, your hurt, your life to be consumed, reducing it to reality TV. Your precious memories are my mindless entertainment. Your trauma becomes my background noise. Your life-shattering divorce, my slop. Your children, my characters. Your pain, my distraction. Your feelings, my filler episodes. I will swipe past your birth video when I get bored. I will downvote your divorce if it isn't entertaining enough. Your life is what I clean my kitchen to, what I kill time with, and if you fail to entertain me, fine. I will scroll for another life to consume. Her whole essay is full of that kind of snarkiness. But doesn't that make you think? My pain shared on social media is your kitchen cleaning background noise. Maybe this video is your kitchen cleaning background noise. There's an ache in our soul that is never satisfied until we surrender to grace. Remember, grace defined at this church is God refusing to abandon us and continuing to pursue us. In this moment, when the ache is pretty real, I want to give you this quote from Eugene Peterson in his book, Reverse Thunder. He is a wonderful dead theologian. The chief difficulty in maintaining Christian witness is timidity. The life of the world is gaudy and noisy and assertive. The life of faith is modest, quiet, and unassuming. The first part is this wrong message us achievement-based adults are leaving to our younger generations. And I'm not happy about that. Because the life of faith is really modest and quiet and unassuming. How does that hit you? I've begun to tag on social media, try us, we're not a noisy church. I just want that communicated to what we're trying to do, to live a faith like this, because everything is Hevel. So your next conversation question: what draws you to a life of faith that is modest, quiet, and unassuming. What about that feels so good to that ache in your soul? Have that conversation. When a life of faith is modest, quiet, and unassuming, we can actually find out that we matter. We matter in the midst of all of this Hevel. Mattering is knowing deep down that your life has meaning and significance, that you matter in ways bigger than your circumstances or achievements or anything that is Hevel. You matter. Worthiness is your birthright. Richard Beck, The Shape of Joy, is a book he wrote. I love it. He wrote, mattering is a psychological anchor in the storms of life. Let me twist that a little bit. Mattering is a psychological anchor amongst the Hevel. Mattering isn't earned, mattering is given. You're already worthy. Something outside of you validates you as worthy. Who validates you as worthy is your Creator, this God who pursues you with grace. Which is why the author will always circle back to, here now is my final conclusion. Fear God and obey my commands, for this is everyone's duty. To begin, how do you live life in the midst of all this Hevel? It starts by accepting Hevel is real. I think you have felt it in watching this video. I think you have felt it in your conversations. Acknowledge that everything else is really out of your control. Again, I want you to read these 12 chapters. You're going to find at some of the bleakest moments in this book, 6 times the author says about the gift of God being the enjoyment of simple, good things in life, like family, a good meal, or a sunny day. You can't control these things, but you can enjoy these things. You aren't guaranteed them, but when they happen, those are the good things. Those are the unassumed things. What was that quote again? Those are the modest, quiet, and unassuming moments. And your soul gets to breathe. Life is unpredictable, foggy, uncontrollable. And you can't force outcomes, manage every variable, and secure yourself against all loss. Sorry, it's all Hevel. But when you stop fighting the nature of life, that is Hevel, you can actually live with more peace, more trust, and more presence. It's an invitation to release illusion of control, stop demanding certainty, live with open hands instead of clenched fists, trust God with what you can't manage. In Ecclesiastes, this acceptance doesn't lead to despair, it leads to freedom. Because when you acknowledge that life is Hevel, you're freed from the exhausting attempt to master what can't be mastered. When you adopt a total trust in God, realizing that this is imperfect progress with your trust issues, you get to enjoy your life as it is actually experienced, not how you think it ought to be. How you think it ought to be is probably some Hevel. Hevel is everything God is not a part of. We trust that God is a part of everything. Bringing God into your life can clarify what the Hevel is in your life. Fearing God and trusting God, having a relationship with God, imperfect progress with God, and checking in with God all the time. Hevel still happens, but then you learn God's perspective to help you lead your life. You lean into the larger story. We're going to hear that a lot in this series. Hevel may bog you down and distract you from these truths. So I hope we see you again. We have so much to go through. Read these 12 chapters. See why this book is not so well liked. And then get that little ache in your soul, get a little hope to that, and let's learn more about this together. Maybe we'll see you live on a Friday night. Be part of these conversations with the people that helped me put this together. We'd love to see that. Otherwise, I will see you again.